to focus today really on the barriers to happiness, so what gets in the way, and these can be external barriers or internal. We're not going to do so much on the external barriers today. They're things that are systemic. Money is part of that, but there is a threshold. They've estimated it at different levels, but there is a threshold. Once you're kind of over the threshold and you're surviving comfortably for you and your family, then happiness doesn't tend to go up much more with money, actually, which is, a bit like the lottery example. But certainly if you're below that threshold, it's very hard to maintain happiness. And so there's systemic problems like that. There's, there might be other relationships, dynamics, systems that people are in, difficult jobs. I speak to a lot of people who are experiencing difficulties in their workplace. So things like that can be a real barrier. And, hopefully people can get outside help with that, problem solve a bit and see what they can do. But that stuff's really tough. We might look at that later. But today we want to look more at the internal barriers. So the stuff we do in our own mind, the things that come up that block our happiness. And what I thought I'd do is start with a list of some of the kind of the greatest hits of what blocks happiness, if you like. So these are things that I come up against in my work, stuff I've observed in people, stuff I know from other people's research and work. It's not the full list. There'll be other ways. So your own mind might block it. Not everyone blocks happiness like this. Some people it comes more naturally for. But I'll go through these, and then we're going to do a practice to help us work with these barriers to happiness. So the first one is the good old inner critic. So we've talked a lot about the inner critic, either this voice in our head or this felt sense of, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing well enough, I don't deserve happiness, I'm unworthy. That will come up a lot. So people will start to feel happy and enjoy something, and then the voice in their head will say, you don't really deserve this, or they'll feel embarrassed or shame around the happiness. Another key block is having this, and these can all interrelate, actually, they can all be connected, but having a high focus on others. So for some reason, we've got this message that actually other people's happiness is much more of a priority than our own, full stop. So it's not this wonderful scenario where we prioritize other people's happiness and our own. That's the best. It's this one where we go, okay, other people, I must give, focus on others all the time, and there's no time for me. And that's a pattern I see in my work a lot that then leads to burnout, because no one can sustain that for, decades. Another one is, a high focus on these external things like career and ambition and things we need to get, and to the point where we're not taking in what we have or giving ourselves time to really savor, or we're obsessively focused on one thing and not having a break from it because we think I have to work harder to do better and better, and then I'll be happy. And ironically, that actually robs us of the happiness of the process, and happiness will actually get us further as well. So we'll be more creative, more flexible, more stress resilient, more able to collaborate, all the things that will lead to success if we're happier. So, nothing wrong with having a focus on your career, but if it's excessive to the point where you're not allowing yourself time to do other things and to really take in the achievements on the process of that, then that can be a problem. Worry can be a big barrier here. So we're worrying about the future. Our mind's trying to predict what could go wrong, like catastrophizing, so that it protects us against things going wrong and unhappiness. And actually it robs us of the present moment happiness, because we're always worrying about the next thing. Rumination, so excessive focus on the past, perhaps trying to make sense of the past, typically associated with low mood and depression, and there might be hopelessness and helplessness in there as well. So those kind of thought patterns, but it might not be as extreme as that. It might be just can't get your mind off what went wrong in the past, or kind of why things are the way they are. And then we lose the present moment again. The external critics, so excessive judgment on the outside world. This is a way our brain tries to control things and, tries to make us feel good and kind of powerful, but it will often mean it's hard to enjoy the present moment looking out, and it's not long before the external critic turns inwards as well. Excessive pessimism, so this idea that we have control. If I predict the worst, at least I won't be disappointed. But actually it robs us of a lot of happiness, and it biases our attention to miss opportunities. And there's a lot of research around pessimism and why it's not good. It highly correlates with depression and anxiety. Reason giving, so lots of reasons why we can't do this action, can't do that, shouldn't have to do it, and then it stops us doing the actions of happiness. There can be that happiness doesn't feel safe. For many of us, if you've not been able to trust happiness, you start to feel happy. You think, oh, is this going to go wrong? Or, it just can be a very felt sense of anxiety when things are going well. So that kind of lack of trust. The comfort zone. So we want to avoid anxiety and pain. So we stay in this little bubble of what Russ Harris calls the comfort zone. And then it means we stop taking risks, and we stop going out into the world. And it feels good temporarily because we've avoided difficulty. But over time, the world gets smaller, our problems get amplified, and it creates more pain and less happiness. Autopilot and being distracted, so we're not actually present with the things we're enjoying. And that's why we've been doing savoring this week and gratitude, to really get present with the things. Because I work with people who are doing all the right stuff, but they're still not so happy, and that tends to be they're not really present when they're doing that stuff. Their mind is going through worry, rumination, comparison, excessive self-focus, all these other processes, and robbing us of the enjoyment of the actual things we're doing. So, when people are doing exercise, hobbies, work, family, travel, they're doing all the things that could make life meaningful, and they still feel a bit down, then it's often that we're not really present in that stuff. Because of the way our mind is, and mindfulness will help. Distraction as well. If we're multiply doing things, we're moving between tasks, we're on our phone, got the TV on, and we're trying to work, that's never going to set us up for flow. And then there's this excessive self-focus, so always checking how you're feeling, or excessive focus on negative emotions, so you're locked on the anxiety, the shame, the low feeling, all of that, and there's not this flexible attention that can notice that, but then start to do the actions of happiness. So there's a big list of things. Hopefully some of them might have resonated in terms of what might block your happiness, but there may be other stuff on it. So what I want to do now is the name the story practice again that we've done before around happiness. So grab your piece of paper, and what I want to do is on one side, on the front side, is you write down all the thoughts that come up and all the feelings that come up that kind of block happiness. So think about times in your life when you've been doing something you enjoy, but you've not quite you've not enjoyed it as much as you would expect. Were you distracted? Were you criticizing yourself? What would those thoughts have sounded like if we played them out loud? Is it, this might not last, or, I've got to work, I need to focus on, I don't have time for this. I don't deserve this. I need to think about others. What are those thoughts? Write them all down, the things that block it. This won't last. This isn't important, or, whatever it could be. So write down any of those thoughts that come up that kind of block you. If you don't have any of these thoughts and you're able to just really enjoy happiness, then great. We would do more focus around gratitude and savoring and boosting that up even further. But normally, if you think back in your life, most people will find at least times when this happens, even if a lot of the time you can enjoy and take in the good. Think about those times when it's more difficult. And it might even just be habits. It might be more the distraction thing that you're focused on multiple stuff. So write them all down. We'll move fairly quickly again because of time, but you could take longer, you could add to this. So you want to have, as many of those thoughts and feelings, is it the feeling side? Is it anxiety? Is it lowness? Is it shame? Is it tiredness? Is it lack of motivation? What are the physical feelings that come up that make it hard as well? And once you've written all of those down, turn your piece of paper over. And then on the other side, we want to come up with a story title. So you imagine all these thoughts and feelings were like a movie, a book, audiobook, whatever, some sort of story, and you're wanting to give it the something something story title. So it could be the I don't deserve happiness story title, or I've got to focus on others story title, or the world's terrible, so I can't be happy story title, or I've got to focus on my career story title, or if I take my eye off the prize, I'm going to slip up story title. If I don't spot the danger, I'll not be happy story title. So something that fits with your pattern of thoughts. And the reason we call it a story is that even if there's truth to some of it, it's never the full picture. It's never every angle of the story. Even a true story is just one snippet, one take on something, highly biased, doesn't show the full kind of picture. So we're wanting to kind of get that sense that this is a story our mind tells us. So hopefully everyone now has a load of the difficult thoughts in the story title. And what we want to do is use this technique to help us to work with any resistance that comes up. So hopefully you all have something planned to savor today. You're working on some of the habits and actions of happiness that we've talked about. You've got gratitude. And it might be that as you do some of that, some of these barriers come up, even a little bit. It might be even you're just a little bit distracted, or you feel a little bit restless, or you don't feel the happiness as deeply as you could. Or it might be more severe. It might be your mind goes, I don't have time for this. Or you might have even experienced, you go to start some of the things we've suggested this week, and your mind goes, I don't really have time for this. I need to do work, or I need to do something else. What we want to do is either get the piece of paper out and read the thoughts, and then say, here's the, I don't deserve this story. Or we just do it in the moment. So we're starting to practice happiness. Our mind throws up a barrier, and we go, here's the, I don't deserve this story, and then focus back on to the happiness practice, whatever we're doing, whether it be savoring, whether it be gratitude, whether it be goal setting and focusing on that, whether it be just mindfulness and being in the present and taking in, being really focused on someone you're with. Name that story and then focus back into it. And if it keeps coming up, just name it every so often. Name that story a few times and keep coming back. And we're trying to get more of our attention in to the practice. So we're at time. So if anyone needs to head off. If anyone has any questions around that, just chuck them in the chat bar now. But that's the practice today. So to continue with gratitude, at least doing the 3 good things practice, continue savoring at least one thing, maybe a few things today now. Maybe you savor 3 things, or get your 5 a day of savoring. 5 little things. So, your first cup of coffee, your breakfast, a conversation with a friend, a walk outside, time playing a musical instrument, whatever it might be. You pick 5 things today and you savor them. And then if your mind throws up any barrier, name the story. So this naming, it allows us to get these thoughts from here to here. We get a bit of distance, and then eventually they're on our lap, and we have even more space from it.